Prime time, prime time, prime time, prime time.
We're here. Let that bitch breathe. Let that bitch breathe. We are here. We are here. I love the way that ends. That's like a perfect intro. Let me not sniff right in the microphone. A little housekeeping. If you are listening, rate and comment and share the podcast. If you are listening and would like to watch, go to Big Mood TV, Hearts Over Everything. We have a whole playlist there. We have a 6-week series coming out with Carly Golightly. That'll be on the YouTube channel. It'll also be on audio. So you'll have that as well. What else? Go to bigmoodcoach.com if you want sober coaching, life coaching, fitness and healthy lifestyle coaching, sober companionship, intervention work. I'm doing all that. That's what I do. We don't really promote that very much, but I'm going to start plugging it. So the email is, the website is available to you. I'm sure you can see it, but it's bigmoodcoach.com if you're just listening. So yeah, we're here, baby, and I'm a free, intimate, and spiritual Black man. I am free, baby. I am intimate and I am spiritual. And I'm choosing to walk in that. That's the declaration I made this weekend. That is who the fuck I am. That's who I want to be in my 30s. That's who I want to be in my 30s. That's who I want to be the rest of my life. I want to be free, intimate, and spiritual. I'm going to break down what that means, and we're going to talk a little bit about each of those words and break them down in practicality and break them down into just, practicality and how they apply to life. Boom. So what does free mean? What does free mean? As a Black man, that means a lot to me. That means I'm free to do this podcast. My grandfather was born 1910, so he was relatively free. My grandmother got the right to vote in 1965. Black men and women were only allowed to marry interracially in the late 60s, early 70s. There's many Black men and women who are incarcerated right now unjustly and disproportionately, and for crimes that are that don't represent their sentences. Their sentences don't represent their crimes. So I'm free. I'm a free Black man. What else does being free mean to me? I'm a free thinker. I'm a free thinker. Benny said to me, Eric, you cannot be indoctrinated. I cannot be indoctrinated. And what that means is I've gone to church 4 days a week. I still think for myself. And I did a Bible study, and I would even speak freely in the Bible study. And these are devout Christians, but I was not bound, and I was not bound by saying like, hey, I don't fully believe this, but I want to respect your culture and I want to learn more about your culture. I cannot be indoctrinated. In some of the circles I frequent, there's dogma. There's dogma and culture. And I function on the fringes. Even in 12-step, I function on the fringes. Doing combo, I did Hape before the podcast to get me grounded, to get my feet on the floor. The thing with Hape, what I love about Hape is that's what me and Ahmad took me through my own Hape. He treated me and served me Hape for the first time, and I'll look up and tell you exactly what Hape is. My Hape, every Hape is made differently. Every hot bay is made differently. Hold on. Every hot bay is made differently, but what I find value in is hot bay in the morning. When you wake up, when you rise, you fully inhale. By the way, this is not mind altering. So if you're concerned, go fuck yourself. This is what I mean. I can't be indoctrinated. This is medicine, and this is alternative medicine. So what hot bay does is it puts my feet on the ground. So I say, hey, Siri, play worship. Hey, Siri, play meditation music to start the morning. Oh, and here, Siri, no, Siri on my phone on my computer is listening. But I talk to Siri on my HomePod, and she plays the music that to start the morning. I do my hot bay, get my feet touching the ground. I get to be exactly where I am in this moment. I get in the shower, I get dressed, continue with my meditation music, continue with my time of reflection, my time of thought. Then I get on my computer and start answering emails with the meditation music playing in the back. But hot bay puts my feet on the ground. But like I said, I'm not indoctrinated. People in the 12-step community wouldn't necessarily agree with me doing hot bay. It wouldn't necessarily agree with me doing combo and going through that spiritual process. And people in 12-step wouldn't agree with me eventually doing the toad and ayahuasca, maybe if I do them down the line. But I'm not dogma. I'm not your religion. I'm not in your religion. I am a active member of a 12-step community. I do the things that are meant to be done. I take inventory regularly. I grow spiritually. That's actually what I do the best. It's what I work hardest at. And I help other people who struggle with the same afflictions that I do. I use this platform to speak out, not even speak out, but to speak up for, and this goes into free. This continues with free. I speak out loudly against systems of oppression, no matter what that system is, even if it's a system that I function on the fringes of. I speak out against discrimination. I've said some wild things on here about whiteness and blackness. I've said some wild things on here about religion. I've said some wild things on here about sex addiction. I've said some wild things on here about pornography and sexuality as a whole. And I'm free. And also what I mean by being free is, the freest and most present that I am is right here on this microphone. I'm here right now. I'm here with you. I'm here with you right now. And this is the most present I want to be. But I want to be this free and this present in my family life, in my social circles, with my friends, with my partner, with my kids. I want to be this free and this grounded in all of my relationships. And this is free. I want to be free to be myself. So Black people weren't even free to vote, whatever that is, 65 years ago. 65 years ago, that was, my mom was born in 1959. So yeah, about 65 years ago, people weren't entirely free. And there's many, many Black men and women who are not entirely free. And I am. And I have to be fully grateful for that. And if I'm going to be free, I need to walk around with my dick out and be free. I need to walk in the room cock first and be free. That was really a turn of events, the way I said that. You didn't expect that to come with the tone of voice I'm speaking in. But free means I think for myself. I think for myself politically. I think for myself. I've said some wild things on here politically. I told you master's not going to save us. I've said some wild things about our current president, the president who's about to be the fuck up out of here. I spoke freely about him. I'm free. I'm free, and I want to be 100% free. We talked about that on this podcast. We had we've had a few episodes, Sling Dick Mondays, and we've had a few episodes that were me being free, but I want to be free 100%. But the thing is, being free, see, a lot of people talk about, I don't like this PC culture. You can still be free with language and still be what's the word? Inclusive. You could be free and not insult people. You could be free and not insult people and disrespect people. You know what I mean? And I feel like people get the two mixed up. You just can't say faggot and you can't say nigger anymore. And and if someone wants to be called a she, and if someone wants to be called a he, and if someone wants to be called a they, them, just fucking call them that. That's people's problem with PC culture, is that they can't say the ignorant things that they want to say. Don't be an asshole. Be free, but don't be a fucking asshole. I feel like Mr. Rogers getting ready the way I'm changing my clothes right now. But yeah, I want to be free, man. I want to be free, and I am free. I'm making that declaration. I want to be intimate. Intimate and free go together. But what I mean by intimate is just things I say on this podcast that I don't even tell my partner. Because I'm free here. I'm present here. I'm looking at you in the camera. And I want to let you know that I give you all of me, but I want to get I give you 95% of me, but I want to give you the rest of the 5%. I want to give you the rest of the 5%. You've heard me journey through sexuality. You've heard me journey through anxiety attacks on the podcast. You've heard me, but I want to be intimate here, and I want to be intimate with my children and my partner. So I'm a free, and also intimacy. So this impression management, this dope ass haircut JB gave me this morning, the way I dress, my fire ass shoes, that dope ass jacket. That's all impression management. There's a balance. There's like a level of caring what you look like, caring about how you present yourself. I think for me as a free Black man, I am judged though, especially being 6'3", 6'4", almost 300 pounds. People are they see me and they're like, oh, fuck, this big motherfucker. But when you dress clean and you're clean cut and crispy, you're undeniable. They're like, wow, well, he really carries himself well. And it's important for me that I speak well. And that goes me into free. I should be able to speak. I should be able to speak how I want to. But it goes into being free to let my guard down, my physical appearance. I did let my belly, but actually I like that one. I like that I care about what I look like. I like that I care about what I look like. It's a discipline thing for me. But I want to be intimate, and being free, being the same everywhere, being myself everywhere. That goes into being intimate. I want people to know me. I want to show you me. I want to show my partner who I am. I want to show my kids who I am, because I am loving. But I'm also flawed. But I want people to see me. And not for validation, but for affirmation. We did a whole podcast. Validation, by definition, is permission. There's a time and a place for permission. But affirmation, by definition, is the acknowledgement of existence. And I want to be affirmed. And I want to affirm others. I want to let you know that I see you. And by connecting, by me being free and intimate on this podcast, I'm affirming you, I'm affirming you and telling you that I see you as well. that I see you as well. Let that bitch breathe. So I want to be free and intimate. I spend a lot of time getting intimate with myself. And one thing you'll notice on this podcast, I'm very self-aware. There's almost no stone unturned in my life. I've taken a look at most things. I've had some blind spots, and some of these things I'm pointing out are blind spots that I have, but I'm self-aware, man. I'm self-aware, if anything. Self-aware is the most important. I think being self-aware is one of the most important things for an adult person to be, is because you have to know the impact you have on the world around you. Nothing's worse than that motherfucker that walks in the room and everybody's like, yo, the fuck is this? What the fuck is this fool's problem? And he has no clue. Everybody knows that dude. Right? Right, Matt? Right, Eric? We all know that dude who's just like, yo, this fool cannot even tell that he's a piece of shit. Or he doesn't give a fuck. Maybe he knows, but he doesn't give a fuck. But anyway, be self-aware. So I spend a lot of time getting intimate with myself, but almost using my knowing of self to be self-centered. Makes me think of myself more and more and more. In my meditation, I journey through myself. I journey through myself, and but I want to put that energy outward. I want to put that energy outward, and I want to get intimate with you. I want to get intimate with the people close around me, and a spiritual Black man. What I mean by spiritual is I want to chase God. You heard my podcast with Ahmad. If you haven't heard my podcast with Ahmad, go back and listen. We talked about spirituality, God consciousness, Christ consciousness, samadhi, enlightenment, all of those things. I'm chasing all of those. And I'm going through the journey of self-discovery as a spiritual person. And I want to declare that. If we do not perfect and enlarge our spiritual life, we are sure to drink. Faith will in fact be dead, because for us to drink is to die. So we have a new employer. God is in charge. And that was my last day of combo, laying on the floor. God, you win. I surrender. Physical surrender. Very transformative. And it's changed. A lot has changed for me in that day. So I want to be a spiritual Black man. I want to walk in that. And I want to, the free, intimate, and spiritual Black man. I want to walk in that. The reason I added Black man in there is because I'm not just a man. I'm a strong Black man. I'm not just a man. I'm not just a man. I am a strong Black man, and I'm not in prison. I'm not on drugs anymore. I raise my children. I want to be an example of what Black men can be. I want to be a Black man that I'm proud of. And I want to walk in that. And I want you to walk in whatever your declaration is. Make your declaration. And, Dylan's moving on here. He's going to come on the podcast right in the first week that we live here. We're moving in less than a month. I'm moving. And he'll be out here. He'll be out here. And I told him, I was like, I want to walk I want to be a certain person living my life in my 30s. There's a certain person that I want to be. There's a certain person that I want to be, and I want him to make his declaration of who he wants to be. And I want to challenge you to make your declaration of who you want to be. Because you can be anybody you want in this world. You can't be anything you want. So you can't be not everybody can be president, right? But not everybody can be the CEO, but you can be whoever you want. You can show up however you want. You get to choose. You're not a victim to your circumstances. You are not a victim to your thoughts. Your thoughts are just your thoughts. They are not who you are. It's not what you're thinking, it's what your feet are doing. Who are you walking in? Who are you walking as? So one more time, I'm a free, intimate, spiritual Black man. And I'm going to walk in that. And then I'm going to practice walking in that over the next couple of months in this process that I'm going through. But the title of this podcast is, it may be, and this is going to be a me podcast, and hopefully by you hearing me, you hear yourself. But I forgive myself. I forgive myself. You know what I mean? This year has been a big effort to forgive myself. How are we doing on time? Just so I have an understanding. Beautiful. We got this shit down to a science. But I forgive myself, and I want you to forgive yourself too for that failed relationship, for yelling at your kid, for not doing the best you can at work, for being depressed, for being manic, for struggling with your mental health. Forgive yourself. It's really not about forgiving other people. It's really not. You can forgive other people. That's a resentment. You want to get rid of resentments, but you want to have peace with yourself. So yeah, I want to forgive myself this year. I think I've listed and masturbated in all the bad things I've done in my life, and really have soaked in it this year, especially on the podcast, talking about the violence, the toxic masculinity, the objectification of women, the sex addiction, the fucking this, the fucking that, the shooting dope. I don't want to identify as that anymore. I don't want to identify in the I don't want to be Eric alcoholic. I don't want to be Eric addict. I want to be Eric who struggled with and has recovered from. I want to have recovered from. And now I get to forgive myself and move on with my life. I've caused enough of my own suffering. Someone said, I only know you for a couple years, but you beat yourself up more than anybody I've ever known. My therapist said that to me. He said, wow, you beat the shit out of yourself. Did anybody beat you when you were growing up? I said, no. He said, well, you beat yourself up. It's like I flog myself, and I'm just not doing that anymore. So I forgive myself, and all the people who traumatized me and all the people I traumatized. I forgive myself for traumatizing you, and I forgive you for traumatizing me. The guy who groomed me as a kid, I'm not mad at him. The kids who tortured me because of my race, I'm not mad at them. Some of them I'm still close to, because I know they're better. I know they're better now. But I forgive myself, and I want you to forgive yourself too. This is going to be a soft podcast. This is a soft one. Hape really, so like the reason Hape does this, Hape works through you, works on your mind, brings clarity. So every word I'm saying is very intentional, and my feet are planted on the ground. I'm doing a little spinning because this is transcendental for me. To do the move on the stool, it kind of gives me some metronome tick tock. But Hape will ground you and give you clarity, and I feel very clear. But I want you to forgive yourself. My brother, he has a hard time. He when I turned 13, he turned 18 and he went to college. And he left, and I was so sad when he left. My brother is my hero. I want to talk a little bit about what he's doing, give him the proper due, what he's due. And I think I want to do a Zoom interview with him. Over the break. But I want him to forgive himself for leaving, because when he left, that's when my life took a turn. because I didn't have the man I looked up to around anymore. So I looked for other people. But I don't hold any grudges. I want him to forgive himself. I want him to forgive himself. It's not his fault, and I want my mom to forgive herself. This is not your fault. That I ended up this way. I was gonna end up this way no matter what. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I want my girl to forgive herself for getting in trouble with me, and I want my children to have the ability to forgive themselves when they make mistakes. So that moves on to what we're gonna finish up with. Actually, we're gonna finish up with two more things. Talk less, listen more. I know I'm on here talking a lot, but that's what a podcast is me talking. So, but something else I want to be intentional about is listening more, and just hearing people with my heart. I want to hear people with my heart. I want to create space for people, hold space for people to share their experience. If they want feedback, I'll provide feedback, but I want to hear them. I don't, you know what I do a lot of the time? I trauma bond. And how you trauma bond is you tell me your fucked up thing. I tell you my fucked up thing. Oh, our fucked up thing is the same. Oh, we're getting closer. I trauma bond. That's how me and my partner met. And we had fire ass sex. Fire. Um, after bonding for a number of weeks, we didn't have sex for a good amount of time. But I want to talk less and I want to listen more. So that's important to me right now. I want to walk in that as well. So I want all of us to talk less and listen more. You know, I want all of us to hear each other. Everybody wants to be heard. I want to be heard, obviously. And I hope by you guys hearing me that I'm able to provide some sense of insight on life that can relate, that you can relate to. So talk less, listen more. Maybe that'll be the title of the podcast. We always have so many bars that become that. There's possibility for them to become the titles of the podcast. But how do you show up as the 100,000 million% you? And we're going to finish here. It's going to be a short one. How do we show up 1,000% ourselves? That's integrity. I think that starts with a declaration for your life. None of this is not my original thought. This is my interpretation of something that I experienced this weekend, and we'll talk more about it after. I'll have one of the people from that organization on the podcast. But how do you walk in 100% authenticity? You set a declaration for yourself, and everything you do should be in alignment with that declaration. So if I say I'm a spiritual man, if I say that, I mean that. So all of my actions need to be conscious and congruent. Ooh, callback. My belief system and my actions should align. If I say I'm an intimate man, then I need to be practicing intimacy with the people around me. I need to be practicing intimacy with my partner, my kids, my mother, my brother. Oh, let's go back to what my brother's running for city council in Long Island City, Queensbridge, Long Island City, Sunnyside, Astoria. He's a Queens kid, son. We are from Queens. We are Queens through and through. We grew up in the parks. We grew up riding our bikes. We grew up in Queens public schools. We grew up on Queens public buses. We grew up on Queens school buses. We grew up in. We are Queens cats. My brother's a Queens cat, and he's been built for this. I'm going to affirm the fuck out of him. This man has taken all the right steps. I've watched in awe as my brother has taken all the right steps. The decisions he made in college, the decisions he made after grad school, the decisions he's made in working in New York City government, the decisions he made in law school, the decisions he made in the DA's office, and now culminating into this major life decision. He is doing what he is. That is so empowering to watch somebody walk in their promise. And, I want to shout out my mom because all of her kids are walking in their promise. All of her kids, we are our family, and I will just break this down. My mother is a CEO of a big company, and she's created PA programs all over. She's helped create medical programs all over the country. My father has worked in the ICU for 30 plus years, saving people's lives. My sister is in public administration. She works for a charter school, one of the best charter schools in the Bronx. My brother running for city council. Myself, sober coaching, companioning, public speaking, podcasting. All three of my parents' children are walking in their promise. So shout out to my mom, shout out to Dawn, shout out to Derek for making us who we are, and shout out to Alex Reyes for walking in his promise. We're all so proud of you. Everybody's so proud of you. Everybody in your life is so proud of you, and you're fulfilling our dream for you. No pressure. No pressure. We love you. I love you. And that's my example of a man. That's when I think of manhood, that's who I think of. That's who I think I want to be like. And I'm grateful for my family. And I'm not telling any secrets, because if you look up my last name and then look up my parents and then go on my Facebook and go on Instagram, you'll find all this stuff. So there's no secrets. But everybody in my family does the deal. Everybody in my family does the deal. I was the only one. I got caught up in a heroin addiction, but a heroin addiction brought it so I can do interventions and break through with families. A heroin addiction made it so I can get on this microphone and share my experience, strength, and hope. My heroin addiction makes it so I'm a public speaker and I can tell my story, do workshops on healing, work with other healers, be in the healing space, hopefully be a leader in the healing space. I've had a number of people in the healing space on this podcast. So everybody in my family is fulfilling their promise, and shout out to my parents for blessing us with that. And they didn't, and we weren't. The reason I'm not able to be indoctrinated now is because my parents did not indoctrinate us in any religion, any political orientation. They didn't blast the news 24/7. They let us think for ourselves. That is the name of the podcast. Think for yourself. As a free, intimate, and spiritual Black man, I think for myself. That's the name of the podcast. Think for yourself. Because my parents blessed me with that. How are we doing on time? Beautiful. So, talk about forgiving ourselves. That's no longer the title. Talk less, listen more. Back to how do you show up authentically yourself? Make a declaration and walk in it, and stay in alignment with your declaration. Stay in alignment with your declaration. Make that choice. Make that choice and I always tell people when they're making amends to people, you have drawn a firm line in the sand. There's no turning back. So when you make your declaration, there's no turning back. Of course, you're not perfect. So you will rest on your laurels. I will rest on my laurels. But I've made a declaration, so I'm constantly striving towards that declaration. And hopefully I spend my life chasing the declaration, not chasing the things. And that leads right into the last topic. I want to need less. And there's a balance there because I like the way I dress. I like my Lulu joints. When you wear Lulu shit, you just feel good. I like my Lulu joggers. I like Lulu shit. I like Nike shit. I like shit. You know, I like flirting with girls. I'm not gonna lie. I told my girlfriend that earlier this week, and I was like, I'm gonna be intimate. I'm gonna tell her the truth. I flirt, you know. I flirt. I do. I like flirting because it gives me validation, but I want to need less. And that validation again is permission. They give me you give me permission to be me? You like me? You think I'm cool? Permission? Am I allowed to be this person? These clothes. Am I allowed to be here? If I dress the right way, am I allowed to be here? Do I have access? I want to need less. Right now I'm abstinent. My partner and I are abstinent. I don't want sex to be the driving motivator in any of my relationships anymore. As a 30-year-old man, I want my relationships to be built on spirituality and intimacy. That aligns with the person who I want to be. And sex can muddy that, right? Like you get into a big fight, you get into a big blowout, and then you have sex and you're like, I love you again. No, maybe there's a time and a place for that, right? But in my life, maybe there's some digging to do. Why do we end up in this big fight? Why do we end up in this big fight? What's missing? What am I missing? What are you missing? So I'm celibate right now. Focusing on SLAA, sex and love addiction. You know, I just broke that anonymity, but fucking send it. I'm free. But I want to focus on sex addiction this holiday season. I'm leaving this holiday because we're about to go on break. This is the last podcast recorded in the studio. So let me thank Room and Board for doing everything they do. They're still going to be working on the back end of the At Home podcast, and of course, we'll have stuff released that was pre-recorded. But shout out to Room and Board for making this podcast what it is. Beautiful set. You know, our banner, not our banner, our sign, our camera, our video is crisp. We have our YouTube channel, even though it's not a very big YouTube channel, it is a very clean YouTube channel. Shout out to all the graphic designers and web designers I work with. Brooke Prince. Shout out to all the people I work with who make me have a legit business. If you look into what I do, your boy does things. And it's all based off the team. If you look at my Instagram, shout out to Missy Babineau, who shoots all of my photo content. Shout out to her husband, Tim, who made the intro video for this podcast. If you haven't seen the intro video, it's on our YouTube channel. Man, I'm so I'm leaving this. I leave town today for the next month, besides when I move. And I'm so proud of what we accomplished this year. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Eric. Thanks, Jai, for making this year what it was, taking this podcast to the next level. And we'll be back in studio in the new year, maybe in a new space, you know, with upgrades on the back end, just doing it better than we were doing it before. Because that's what we're about. We're about progress. We're about progress. But let's wrap up the podcast with my declaration one more time. I'm a free and intimate and spiritual Black man, and we're going to walk in that. What does free mean to you? What does intimate mean to you? What does spiritual mean to you? Forgive yourself. Talk less and listen more. Show up as 1,000%, 100% you. And we got to want to need less. Let's wrap it up. If you're just listening, rate and subscribe to the podcast. If you are just listening, go watch the podcast on Big Moo TV. What else? go to bigmovecoach.com and and check out the services: sober coaching, sober companionship, fitness and lifestyle coaching. I'm taking on a few personal training clients. So if you're in the Coachella Valley and you listen to this podcast, I'm taking on 3 clients in the Coachella Valley. That's it. So play us out, guys. I love this podcast. I love what we did. We had an amazing year. And have a beautiful Thanksgiving. This is going to come out the day before Thanksgiving. So have a beautiful Thanksgiving with your families. Be thankful for your families. And we're out of here.